things you might be doing wrong when it comes to conscious manifestation. Now, I work with a lot of people and I see common themes from time to time with things that people don't do when they're consciously manifesting, a specific person, love, relationships, money, whatever it is. But one of the things I noticed is people trying to do things in the 3D to force it to happen, to make it happen. Now, what I want you to ask yourself is this: if I had what I wanted, would I be thinking of doing this thing in the 3D to make this happen? The answer is going to be no, because if you've already got it, you wouldn't be thinking of doing this 3D thing to get it. So when we talk about taking action, you don't need to take action in the 3D. If you're thinking of doing something in the 3D to get an outcome, then you're not living in the end. However, there is a thing called inspired action, which you've probably heard of. Now, inspired action is not something, again, that you consciously think, I'm going to do this to get this. Inspired action is where you sort of unknowingly do something or make a decision. You don't have the idea in your mind of, I'm going to do this to manipulate this, I'm going to do this to get this, I'm going to do this to get that. It just sort of happens, and you don't really know until after the fact, and you look back and you go, oh, I made that decision, I went to this place instead of this place, and I ended up bumping into my SP, and then, oh, I can see how that happened. But you didn't consciously go, right, I'm going to go to this supermarket because I know my SP shops there and hope I'm going to bump into him, because that is not coming from the version of you that already has what you want. But you might be going shopping one day and a friend calls you and says, do you want to meet for a drink later? And she lives near a different supermarket, I don't know. And you're like, oh, do you know what? I'll go to that supermarket instead, and then I can pop to hers after and have a drink, whatever. So you're not thinking about, the outcome of your desire. You're just thinking thoughts, okay? And then you just sort of unknowingly go to a different supermarket, and then you might bump into your SP there. So that's like inspired action. That's not you thinking, I need to do something. It's just sort of under the surface. It's just happening. It's subconscious, For example, I'll give you some inspired action that I didn't know until after the cat's behind me. So when I was manifesting my specific person, when like I had, I guess, the movement when he actually wanted to be changed, when he actually wanted to say, like, he wanted to be with me and he still loved me. So I remember I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep, and I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to go live. I'm just going to go live and chat to some people, because I was in bed, I couldn't sleep, and I thought, I always feel good going on live and having a chat with people and talking about manifesting and stuff. So I went live, but it was quite late. I think it was like 11:30, midnight sometime. So I had gone live, and then he had woke up at like 2 a.m. his time, because I think where he lived, he was a couple of hours ahead, and he had come on TikTok and he had seen me live. And when he saw me, he said he thought, no, I have to get this woman. I can't. I want to be with her. I love her. I'm going to tell her. Like, so I did something, not with the thought process of, I'm going to go live in case he sees me and then he realizes he wants me. I just thought, oh, I'm going to go live, didn't think nothing of it. So that is sort of what inspired action is. You sort of do something without the intention of, I'm going to do this to get this result. I'm going to do this in case I bump into my SP. I'm going to do this, and then SP might see me. And it applies to all things, I just use SP as an example because it's the most common thing, but it applies to all things. So inspired action isn't something you consciously go, I'm going to do this with the hopes of getting this. I'm going to do this with the hopes of, you will know, because you'll know if you're trying to do something in the 3D to force a situation or make a situation be what it is. Okay? So when you persist in your mind with thinking as if you've got what you want and you're living in the end, and you are claiming that self-identity of, I am the woman that is in this relationship with my specific person. We are married. We're in love, just like I did. You don't need to do anything. The pieces that, get put together, the puzzle pieces, it's all done. It's not anything that you need to make happen. If you live in the end, it will happen in a natural way. It will happen. Okay? You don't need to think, I've got to do this to force this to happen. You've got to ask yourself, whenever you think about doing something, a version of me that has what I want, would she or he do this? Would I even think about doing this? And the answer is probably going to be no. So then you know not to do that. So many of us are living, and obviously we're living in our 3D. Our 3D world is reflecting us, but so many of us are spending more time in our 3D circumstances than we are in our imagination. Okay, what you persist in imagination will be your reality. Teddy! Hello. Hello. I cut my finger yesterday. I was making Honor a sandwich and I slashed right through it. No, I'm just doing a video. Anyway, so yeah, that is my take on inspired action, trying to do things in the 3D. And only you will know. You will know if you are doing it to make something happen. If you are choosing to take an action with the hopes of getting what you want. That is not coming from the you that already has what you want. You wouldn't feel the need to do any of those things in the 3D if you had what you wanted. Okay, so I hope that makes sense and that clears that up. Say goodbye.